Hello everyone! So, you must have heard on the news, on social media, about Schlossberg, the American lawyer who went viral on Wednesday the 16th after he was caught on camera threatening Spanish-speaking restaurant workers for speaking Spanish. He even went as far as saying he would call ICE on them just because they were speaking it. After watching the video, many people on the internet tried to take justice into their own hands and proceeded to leave very negative reviews on the lawyer's law firm in order to just ruin his reputation. So clearly a lot of people were upset about this story. What happened is what linguists would traditionally call linguistic discrimination. Linguistic discrimination is defined on Wikipedia as the unfair treatment of an individual based on his or her use of language. As someone who, by living abroad, faced linguistic discrimination, I thought that was a great opportunity for me to cover this topic and make a video about it. So stay tuned! So, linguistic discrimination can affect individuals in a variety of situations. One of the most common cases, and this is the one I mentioned at the beginning of this video, is when a native speaker of a country, let's call it country A, will treat someone unfairly, usually an immigrant, for speaking language XYZ. But it does not only affect immigrants or foreigners in a country. For example, African American vernacular English, which is the variety of English associated traditionally with African American speech, is often perceived as being uneducated English or just plain bad English. Which, by the way, let's make it clear, it isn't. Linguistic discrimination can also occur in a single country where many languages are spoken. In Spain, for example, Catalan under Franco was seen as a kind of sub-language, and every attempt was made to suppress it across all aspects of society. These measures were so negative and harsh that still today you can feel that discrimination against Catalan. Finally, there's also linguistic discrimination when a non-native accent is perceived as being funny, stupid, or worth mocking. As you can imagine, the list goes on, but let's try to make the video short, shall we? So, I hope it is clear by now that linguistic discrimination is not a rare occurrence, and anyone can potentially be the victim of it as soon as their use of language is seen as negative or inadequate. What's worse is that it's nothing new, and it can have terrible consequences ranging from negative attitudes towards a language or a group of individuals to actual linguistic genocide, which the website Listverse compiles in an article which I will link in the description below. Now let's move on and talk about why linguistic discrimination happens. Well, just like sexism, racism or homophobia, it is not inherent, but actually it's learned. And it's influenced by our environment and the people around us. And it's therefore something that has no scientific basis. Also, it can be very subtle. For example, you can be taught that using the word ain't is not good English, or it's not even a word, or that such and such accent or language is stupid, funny, or worth being made fun of. It seems important to me to highlight straight away that from a linguistic point of view, there is no such a thing as bad language or bad accent. Linguists, who are language specialists, they don't give such judgment about language. These judgments are in fact a purely subjective view of language, usually expressed by people that don't really know much about language at all. And sadly, that sometimes includes teachers. Thankfully, not all of them, of course. The issue with linguistic discrimination is that when you judge someone's way of speaking, you're more or less on a subconscious level telling them that your use of language is superior to theirs. To give you a concrete example, if you're judging someone's spelling or, they can't spell the word it, for example, then what you're doing is highlighting the fact that maybe they didn't have access to the same kind of education as you did before. Potentially, this person didn't have the opportunity to go at school at all. In the case of Schlossberg, when he told off restaurant workers for speaking Spanish, he made the statement that English is the only language worth being spoken in America, and when he threatened to call ICE on them, he sort of implied that people that don't speak English, or in fact speak other languages but English, don't actually belong to America and are probably there illegally. Which is, when you think of it, a huge generalization and assumption on an entire group of people. So I think it clearly shows that linguistic discrimination results from prejudice against an entire group of people, or one individual. Generally speaking, the lower the status of the group or individual, the more likely they are to face linguistic discrimination. Interestingly enough, you don't really hear about discrimination against straight white male, and it's most likely because it's considered to be the norm, and there are also characteristics which don't really stand out in society, do they? So when you practice linguistic discrimination, all you do is stigmatize a group of people based on their gender, race, sexuality, and so on and so forth. And you are also kind of being a jerk by making someone feel stupid or ashamed about themselves. Even worse to me, you are closing yourself off an entire group of people instead of embracing their differences. So that's all I'm going to say about linguistic discrimination. I hope you found this video interesting and that it gave you food for thought. And next time you feel like judging someone based on their use of language, I hope you will think again and remember this video. Anyway, I will see you later. Bye!